Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the SHM podcast. Huge special guest today who's been making waves in the OHL, drafted by the Guelph Storm in 2020 before being traded to the Oshawa Generals, where he is right now. The OHL Goaltender of the Year this year and a 2024 NHL Draft prospect. Please welcome Jacob Oster.
Oh, thank you for having me on today. I'm super excited.
Absolutely. So, Jacob, diving right into things here, you grew up in Ottawa. Just kind of talk about how you got into hockey and how it all started for you.
Yeah, I started skating when I was 3. Started getting like actually playing, I guess we call it IP hockey down here. It's like Timbits hockey at 4. And my dad got me into it. You know, he played when he was younger, and it's run through my family like generations now, I guess. So he was the one who sort of introduced it to me. Didn't want me to be a goalie. I ended up being a goalie. Um, but yeah, no, I'd say my dad got me into it, watched it on TV, and then I really wanted to sort of pursue that dream, and I'm still with it and still love it.
Now, obviously, it's different for every kid, but at what age did you kind of realize that the OHL was going to be a possibility for you?
I think it was the year before our draft year, so I guess it's like U14, U15. I think it was between then that I sort of had my sights set. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest academic student, so I sort of, I kept it open just in case maybe, but the OHL was sort of the route that I had envisioned, and that was sort of my goal was to get there. And then obviously, I guess like the year right before the draft is sort of when you start talking to teams. They start reaching out, asking if if you're interested in coming to the OHL and if you're willing to attend camp, or if you're more so leaning towards the NCAA route and all that. And every single call I got was just OHL. You know what? Yes, I will be attending camp. Like that's what I want to do. So yeah, I want to say it was around like that U14. I'm probably U15 age because I think draft is U16.
Yeah.
I think that yeah, so U15 was when sort of that site was set for me that I wanted to pursue my hockey career in the OHL.
Now, you were obviously drafted by the Guelph Storm, but were there any other teams that kind of piqued your interest that you thought maybe would have called your name, or was it always kind of Guelph to you?
Yeah, pretty much all Guelph. There was talk here and there with a few other teams, but I was on the phone with Guelph very, very often, like almost once a day when they're like within the week going up to the draft, just talking to their goalie coach, their GM, their head coach at the time. And just getting to know them getting to know me, and it was sort of going into the draft. I was very certain that Guelph was going to take me, but there was obviously the chance that you never know who somebody else who gets a pick in front of them gets a chance to grab somebody that you're not expecting to go somewhere. But no, I was very happy and pleased to be selected by Guelph, and I was happy to get there, and especially with all the talk that we had with them. So.
Now, obviously, being an Ottawa kid, did you go to 67's games growing up, and especially around your draft, do you get to see the Storm play at all?
So unfortunately not because that was the COVID year, so they sort of shut down. But growing up, I did go to a few 67's games, not often, just because our hockey schedule was, as a younger kid, was busy as well, so there wasn't always time for that. But I do remember going to a few 67's games, like not necessarily leading up to my draft year, but like a lot when I was younger, and then a few times here and there with some of my buddies that like my teammates back in the day. I guess I can't really say back in the day, um, but yeah. So I went to a few, and then I never actually got to go watch Guelph after the draft or before upcoming the draft, just because of the COVID year and everything was sort of shut down at the time.
Now, obviously, you get drafted at Guelph. What were some of your first impressions of the Sleeman Center when you first got there?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think it's really cool how it's attached to like just little mall sort of thing that they've got going on there with a few little stores and a cafe in there. A bunch of us would always go there before road trips. We'd jump to the cafe, like if we were going to Sault Ste. Marie or something, we'd always go get some like breakfast, and like either like some guys would get coffee, some guys would get like they have like almost like milkshakes, but they're not milkshakes. They're like a healthier version of milkshakes. Not smoothies though. It was weird. But they were delicious. Like they were so good. So all of us would sort of stack up on those before the road trip. but no, Guelph was a great spot. I love the city, the rink, obviously, great facilities, great team staff. I love the team staff there. My first impressions with them were great. I got very comfortable very soon in there, which was nice instead of sort of going your first year not so as comfortable, I guess, with the group of guys in there or afraid to speak up or anything. So it was a very easy environment to get used to and get comfortable in.
Now you played a year and a half in Guelph. Just take us through some of your memories that you had there and things that are going to stick with you the rest of your life.
Yeah, like obviously that's my first junior hockey team that I got to play, like get to play a full season with. And there was guys who came from all over. Like we had four Russian players on our team at the time. Not strictly from Russia, but like Russian descent. So they'd have their little group and their conversations. They would only speak in Russian. So you never knew if they were making fun of you or making fun of other guys, but it was all fun and games. Like they would always tell us afterwards what they were talking about. And like that's definitely a core memory I'd have because I was close with all four of them. Um, and then growing up, like I played with a few, Michael Bushinger, for example. I played in selects like World Invitational tournaments with him in Europe growing up. So I had some connection there, which was great going into that first year because he was also drafted there as well and played and is still playing there. But no, the group of guys there were so tight, like super, super tight, which was great. Like everybody liked each other. There was no odd ones out that guys like wouldn't want to hang out with or wouldn't want to see. And I think that's super important, especially like unfortunately we didn't go very far. Like we got knocked out in the first round, but having a tight group of guys like that and like we still keep some of us still keep in touch like all the time. Like our group chat still like some guys will fire off texts in the group chat every once in a while, just seeing how guys are or just sending like funny like memories that we have with each other and like Snapchat or something like that. They'll send it into our group chat and we'd all be laughing at it for a few days. And but no, it was great.
Now, obviously, then the trade came to Oshawa. No one really expects to get traded in junior, and no one really expects to get traded to a whole different conference. Obviously, you got to play the East Conference a little bit in your time in Guelph, but now you're playing those teams all the time. So, what was that kind of adjustment period, seeing a bunch of new teams all the time?
It was definitely a little bit of a whirlwind of an experience to start. Obviously being traded, going somewhere where I didn't really know anybody. I think two guys going in, and they were Ottawa area kids. So it was definitely a little bit hard. It was definitely hard jumping into definitely a new conference and facing a bunch of new guys that I wasn't necessarily used to facing. Because our first year we only played interconference, and then my second year we only played for half a year where we could jump over. So yeah, I think it was definitely a battle trying to get comfortable in there, knowing all these other guys, knowing what the other teams are running, what our team is running, especially like getting used to the new systems. But yeah, no, I think my parents liked it more because now we play in Ottawa a lot more, so they can come watch me play a ton more instead of having to drive 5 hours to come to Guelph. I think we played Ottawa I think three or four times after the deadline there. So like I think we were in Ottawa twice at the time, and then this year we played them four times in Ottawa, five times in Ottawa, one of the two. So no, my parents I think enjoyed it a ton, especially right when it happened because it's a lot closer to home. But overall, I think it was great for me as well. Like just a change of scenery, got to know the guys really well, and then going into this year, like it made everything so much easier.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you probably had a chance to play in Ottawa when you were in Guelph, but when you get to Oshawa and get to play there a lot more, how special is that to know that you get to go home and see all your friends and family a lot more often now?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's awesome. Like being in Oshawa now, like I love like everything about Oshawa is great. Like rank, teammates, coaching staff, all of that. Um, it's definitely a special spot to play, and especially for me now, like sometimes when our team would give us the 2 days off, I'd head home on one day and come back the next day so I could come back and see my family and spend some time with them a little bit besides only seeing them after the games and maybe going out and grabbing a bite to eat after the game and then them heading home. I get to come home and have home cooked meals with them and spend some time with them, which was great. But yeah, no, it's definitely a special spot to play junior hockey in Oshawa for sure.
Now let's jump into this year. Obviously, a little bit of struggles throughout the first half of the season, and going in the second half of the year, you guys, I believe, weren't even in a playoff spot. So just talk about the run that you guys and how everything kind of turned around to winning the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it was I don't want to use the term whirlwind because I used that already, but it was crazy. Like it was like going into Christmas break. I think we went on a 5 game win streak heading into the break, and we were still in ninth spot in the conference. Like we were still out of the playoff spot. And coming back into that Christmas, coming back after the Christmas break was, it was tough. Like we were all sort of, I think, mentally checked out going into the break, but then coming back, we had the week off. No, but I don't think anybody touched the ice over that week. Um, and then we came back, and I think our not only our bond was stronger, but I think everybody the team started to buy in a ton. And I think that shows with our success, right? Like we bought into our systems, we listened to the coaches, because we had a term like our way or your way with our coaching staff. And your way was the way we wanted to play and how our guys would go like individual. But then our way was the coach's way, and it was sticking to our structure, doing all of the things, like the little things right. And I think our guys really started to buy into that system a ton after the break. And we went on a 12 game win streak to end the year. Starting in London, actually, we went like London, Sioux, Sudbury, and then I think we played Sudbury like 3 times throughout those last 12 games, and it was definitely a tough schedule for us, like heading into that. But we had confidence going into it, and obviously everything worked out the way we wanted it to. We went on a 12 game win streak, but even our record after the break, it was ridiculous. It was like 25-7 and something, I think, which was crazy. Like looking back at it, it was almost like wow. Like you look back at it and you're like, holy, like it was like a run for like ages in junior hockey. Like I don't want to say that because there's been a ton more better ones for sure, but it was like looking at the group of guys and how young we still are. For us to be able to like turn our season around like that, and like you said, conference champ or first in the conference heading into playoffs, and then winning the Eastern Conference in the third round and getting us to the finals was, I think, something special for our group.
Yeah, I think at one point, maybe going into the North Bay series, you guys were like 23-2 in your last 25 games or something like
Yeah.
that. Like it's nuts to see a record like that, especially in this day and age in the OHL where you guys were just firing on all cylinders. Now, obviously, a couple moves at the deadline, and one of them was Connor Punnett from Barrie. Just talk about the experience that Punnett brought to that lineup and the physicality that he brought every single night.
Yeah, for sure. You know, he brought a lot of experience and a lot of depth, I think, to our team as well, because we were still a super young team even with him. But he's been through the playoffs. He's played in North Bay in the playoffs before, so especially heading into that series for us, he gave us the rundown of sort of what to expect. Because they're a great team, right? They come out hard in their own building. They don't like to lose at home, nor does any team. But no, their fans rally behind him, and he that was one of the things he warned us about was, if they get going, they're not going to stop, and that's sort of what happened in Game 6 for us in their building. But he brought like almost just like this aura of like energy to our group, and like the physicality, like you mentioned, was off the charts, right? Like he was a quote unquote tough guy, is what you can say. And whenever he was on the ice, the other guys on the other team wouldn't want to do anything necessarily that they would do when he wasn't on the ice. Because they know like they'd have to, I can't necessarily say deal with the punishment, but like he would go out and he would take care of business, I guess is what you can say. Um, but he brought a lot of leadership to our group as well, like going through everything that he's gone through in the OHL in his junior hockey career, when he was able to like relay all of his information, and experiences that he's been through. I think that boosted our team as well and sort of just gave us that extra knowledge heading into the playoffs and that last little stretch of games there.
Now shifting to the North Bay series, obviously up 3-0. North Bay comes back, they 4-7, and then you guys single-handedly take game seven, like 6-1 or something like that. Just talk about the emotions of a series like that where you think it's over early, maybe, and then North Bay just comes right back into it.
Yeah, no, we for sure. I'd say, we managed those first three games very well. And then heading into game four, what they score, tie the game with 1.8 seconds left in the third. And then, like you could see our guys on the bench just sort of like they're hanging their heads a bit. They're like, we were so close and we just couldn't get it done. And then they come back and win in overtime there. Then game five back in our building heads to double overtime. And our guys, we were gassed. Like North Bay does such a good job of taking your guys out physically. Like they are such a physical team and they're not afraid to throw their weight around. And that's something I think we can learn off of for next year for sure, heading into, the playoffs or just regular season in general. Because like you said, it's a 7 game series and it's, if you can slowly wear the guys down like they did to us, they were able to mount that comeback. And then obviously game six, we had I want to call that a brain fart game. We didn't stick to our structure. We didn't play typical like Oshawa Generals hockey like we did throughout the rest of the series or the season. Um, and it was a very good, I think, come to your own moment for us. Like we looked at each other and we're like, we just blew a 3-0 lead heading into game seven now. Like, we gotta turn our turn our things around here and we gotta get back to the way we play hockey and get back to the way we played those first three games. And sure enough, right, I think we still had a few top guys out of our lineup there. But we were able, every single guy gave that extra 5, 6%, and a lot of younger guys stepped up and played a bigger role than what they're used to. And we were able to come out victorious. And I would say, like, like you mentioned, like pretty much single-handedly like dominated that game. We did everything right. We put pucks behind their D and, forecheck them, tried to wear them down, and we were able to put pucks behind McIver there. And he's a great goalie as well. But we know we got our lucky bounces, and fortunately for us, we were able to come out with a win. But yeah, I think a lot of our guys were very nervous heading into that game seven. But it's good to have emotions. I think you got to play with emotions. And yeah, like I said, we came out with the win. So that's all that mattered to us at the time.
Now, two things that happened following that game seven win. Obviously, you guys get the Bobby Orr trophy and all that. You're shaking hands. Had a good moment that I saw of you and McIver. What were some of the things that you kind of said to him? Obviously, as a rookie that had just gone up against you as the goaltender of the year.
Yeah, I just told him like he's a great goalie. I would say he's a huge reason on why that team was where they were, especially with DiVincenzo's getting injured and McIver stepping in there in the Kingston series and was able to sort of swing things, well, not necessarily swing things around because they were already going in the right direction, but step in and, fill Dom's shoes there and, like build a confidence with him behind them with the team. And I just told him like you've got a great bright future ahead of you. Like don't hang your head. Like obviously this didn't go your way tonight. But next year, like you're gonna come back even better, and your team's gonna be great as well. So, don't hang your head. You're a hell of a goalie, and just keep pushing it. Right, like that's all you can do. But no, he's got a very bright future ahead of him.
For sure. And then the other moment that I think the TSN broadcast might have caught up on was you skating over while you guys are celebrating and you consoled Jacob Terrian and then we're talking to DiVincentis. Just talk about how that moment kind of went and what was said there.
Yeah, no, like I said, I caught it out of the corner of my eye. A few guys on their team were still sitting around watching the presentation and all that, and all tears running down their eyes. And I can't necessarily say I've been in that situation because they've been to that conference finals 3 years in a row and lost 3 years in a row. But I'm an emotional guy. Like we lost in the first round my first 2 years in the OHL. And, I took that to heart and I'd say like tears rolling down my eyes in the dressing room. I try to act tough, but it's just, like your season's over until September now. Um, so yeah, I just went over there and he's a young kid still too, right? I'm pretty sure he's 2006 born. And he's a great hockey player. Like he's got a bright future ahead of him as well. And, I just sort of let him know that like this isn't the end of your career. Like obviously it's a bump in the road and it's gonna sting. but you're a great hockey player and you've got such a bright future. Like take this as a learning moment and like pick your head up because you have nothing to hang it for.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you guys move on, you get a couple days off before heading out to London. So just take us through how kind of lead up to this championship series went and how the first kind of few games of the series went.
Yeah, no, obviously the lead up, we I would say we were pretty confident heading into it. We technically took the season series against London, beat them in their building. We lost to them in overtime in our building. So we knew it could be done. They're a great team over there, lots of potential, like lots of prospects, and great hockey players in general, and great coaching staff, and they know how to get things done over there. So heading into it, we knew that we had to do our thing. We couldn't worry about them too much. We'd try to do our thing, let them adjust to us. Um, and I think the 4 games, I think we were obviously not 100% healthy. A lot of injuries like throughout the North Bay series. And they got a little bit more time throughout the playoff break or playoff series to sort of just rest and relax, where we were sort of going, we'd shoot ourselves in the foot a little bit too much and we'd have to go those extra games. Um, but no, like for sure, I think our first but yeah, the only first 2 games were in London there, and I think our first game was sort of just like the awe moment for all of our guys that, playing in the Bud, like unbelievable rink to play in, especially for a championship series. Loud, you got like 11,000 people in there. It's big building, lots of history. So like looking up and around and all of that, I think a bunch of our guys are sort of just getting in that awe moment of like, or even like you can say the fan mindset instead of just worrying about hockey to begin with. Um, and then even game 2, like we just didn't come out, we didn't play our structure. We sort of let them walk right all over us. And I think that's the biggest thing throughout the series is we let them take control of the game and we couldn't just figure our style of hockey out.
Now, there was one goal in game two. I'm sure your phone blew up because of this, but how many times did people send you that Michigan goal and like were you just turning your phone off after a while and just like, I don't want to see this. Like I know what happened. I don't want to see it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely got a few texts after it, just, not even like rubbing it in, but just sending it to me and they're like, I can't believe this just happened, sort of thing. And the worst part about it was is like my parents were obviously there as well, and I met them for breakfast in Oshawa the next morning. And while we were sitting there at breakfast, TSN was on, and I think I saw it about 4 or 5 times sitting there with my family as I was eating breakfast, and I'm just like, turn it off. Like I don't want to see it anymore. Um, Obviously like every time a Michigan goal is scored it's special, like it's a cool something different that you don't get to see very often, and especially in a championship series, like it's gutsy to pull off. But yeah, no, obviously you never want to be the one that gets scored on by it. But no, you know what, it's something to look back on now. I'm not too worried or anything like that. It's just kind of cool to say, hey, like that happened to me. The guy who did it's great hockey player, Max McHugh, he knows how to get things done. So I can, look back on it and obviously now know maybe how to play that a little differently and not let it happen to me again.
Now, obviously, tough couple losses. Their games 1 and 2. Series shifts back to Austria. You're back on home ice in front of Jen's fans that are one of the most passionate fan bases in the league. How excited were the boys to get back home for those 2 games? There, games 3 and 4.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think North Bay's coach talked about it in our series against them, heading back home and like their seventh man mentality of them, their fan base. And like you said, I think we probably have some of the most passionate fans in the league. They were always there to support us throughout the year. Um, Even when we weren't in a playoff spot heading into Christmas break, like we were still like 5,500, 6,000 people like packing that building every night. And no, it was definitely something to come back in that championship series into our own building, with our fans there, getting us. getting us going and having that seventh man mentality of them behind us and, rallying our guys together. And like you mentioned, our boys were super fired up to get back into our own building and, try to give them a show and try to give them something to cheer about.
Now you get back into game three, you get Matt Buckley and Connor Punnett back in the lineup. And obviously the first period of that game three where you guys went up to, I think, 3-1 lead, it kind of showed that those guys were a big add back in their lineup. But for the other guys, like how much did that mean to a team to have those guys even on the bench?
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially like we mentioned Ponnett earlier before, just the experience he brings and, like that aura of energy. I think it was definitely a boost for us and our team. But even like you mentioned, Matthew Buckley, right? He's unbelievable forward, scored 30 goals in the regular season. Like he's a goal scorer and he brings an energy to the bench as well and to our guys. And even when he's on the ice, he's just he brings that energy. Like guys want to work for each other, like they're playing injured. Some of our guys are playing healthy. So it's just like, if they're doing that for us, what can we do for them to help them? Um, and I think that was a good moment for us, like especially in that first period, getting up there 3-1. It just showed that we're not ready to sort of back down yet. Obviously the game didn't go the way we wanted it to. But we were ready to keep pushing and just having those guys back was definitely a huge energy boost for us.
Now, obviously, that game three, tough double overtime loss, and then there was also a double overtime loss against North Bay in the previous round. Obviously, they both didn't go your guys' way, but how do you guys use that as a learning experience for the younger guys next year, knowing that you went on a deep enough run like you did that had games like that where you had to push it 80 plus minutes a night?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely a great learning experience. And, for all the young guys that were with us this year that are going to be back next year, just bringing that mentality of like how much it sucks to lose, like how bad it hurts. Like, all of us in the dressing room after the game against game four there in London, all of us tears running down our eyes, heads hung down to our shoulders. Like just it sucked, especially losing in our own building in front of our fans. And we could still hear them celebrating out on the ice like 30 minutes after we were got off the ice. So I think it's just, like you mentioned, bringing that back. The hate to almost just lose, like that feeling, like you never want to feel that feeling again. So it's almost like whenever we get there again next year, it's whatever it takes. Like you got to do what you have to do, but only do your part and don't try to do somebody else's. Like focus on you. And if you got to drag somebody into the battle, you got to drag somebody in, but don't try to do their job.
Now, obviously, we talked about the fans a little bit, but some of the most passionate fans in Oshawa, I'm sure you guys try and stay off social media as much as you can, but how often you guys see those generals live tweets and just have a good chuckle at those?
Oh, for sure. Like definitely throughout the playoffs, I think guys we're staying off social media. You don't need any criticism or anything like that getting into your head throughout playoffs. But heading into playoffs or even after the series were done, like some guys, just take a quick look and always get a good chuckle. Like nobody, I don't think anybody knows who the guy is. Like nobody's ever seen him or introduced themselves or even met the guy. Um, so yeah, no, I think some of the guys obviously get a good chuckle out of I think everything on social media and just like reading not necessarily about themselves, but even the team as well, and like what some people have to say about, the Oshawa Generals or the London Knights or, any other team in the league. But yeah, no, it's definitely social media is definitely it's a funny spot to be in sometimes and reading and listening to what other people have to say about you or the team. But it's like I mentioned, you can't really focus on that too much and you just got to go out and play your own game.
Now, tying into that, obviously, with you being a prospect of the NHL draft this year, I'm sure you're not looking at those rankings too much, but how do you kind of prepare at the start of the season, knowing that your name's going to be out there in the rankings, but you're not looking at them? How do you just kind of prepare to say, hey, I'm going out and doing what I can?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I think heading into this season, our coaching staff sort of prepared me. They told me they're like, you're gonna be playing a ton this year, and that's sort of where what we want you to do, and as long as you stay healthy and you're gonna keep playing. Um, Heading into the season, obviously being passed up twice on the draft so far. I never really even, to be honest, never even sort of expected my name to be up on the rankings heading into the draft this year. Just, I'm a third year player. It's not often that they take a chance on that. So it was more so of just the mentality of like, like you mentioned, like just go out, I'm gonna do what I do and see where things go. And obviously things worked out great for me this year. I was able to just keep my head down and just keep pushing. Um, and obviously I had a great team in front of me that, like I mentioned, the North Bay series, they made things easy for me there. And throughout the year, obviously we had our ups and downs. But it was more so just like the mental battle with not only myself, but the team as well. Just like, put everything behind you and just only focus on what's coming next and keep pushing and do whatever you can, right? So
Now, another guy that was in your lineup that has experience that has won an OHL championship, Connor Lockout. What did he bring that entire playoff run that helps keep the boys motivated?
yeah, he was a great addition for us. He's a little firecracker of energy for us. He would always go out and even like the last like 20 seconds of game four there against London, he face off in our zone. He got the puck and he took it right down to their zone. Like he wants to win and he has that drive until like it's not over until that final buzzer goes. Um, and like he would always talk to us about last year in Peterborough and like the adversity they had to go through to get where they were. And the biggest thing he kept harping on was like, it's obviously going to be hard, but you have no idea how good it's going to feel to hoist that trophy over your head afterwards. Um, and I think we experienced that against North Bay for sure, going down three or going up three, then down three, heading into that game seven. He's like, you have no idea how good that's going to feel to hoist that trophy or even touch it. And just like the excitement of the group afterwards, like we were all like, you're right. Like it was an unbelievable feeling. Like my mom even actually mentioned to me, she's like, I don't think I've ever seen you that excited before. Um, and obviously, like it's something you have to be proud about. But obviously, it wasn't exactly what we wanted in the end. But you got to take your little wins and enjoy them as well.
Yeah, obviously Lockout and the boys in Peterborough, a lot of adversity, especially when you're playing with square corners in your rink. It's not easy to play. Um,
Yeah.
Tying into that, talking about rink style, top three favorite rinks to play in the OHL.
Oh, I don't know. Definitely Budweiser Garden for sure. I love that rink. Just going in there playing that rink. It's so historic. I would say Oshawa is probably number two. Like I never got to play in it as a visitor. But being at like having it being my home now, the fans like it's just nonstop. The fan support's always there for our team. Um, at number three, this one's a controversial one, but I'm gonna say the Bay Shore in Owen Sound. That was my first OHL start, my first win. And so it's sort of just it's a rink that I've always been comfortable playing in, just having that knowing that like, like this is where my OHL career started. Um, and this I'd, just keep pushing, right? Like this is where like I mentioned, it's where it started and you won your first game. So having that sort of I guess motivation and that mentality of like, like you've won in this building is just like it makes going into that game so much easier.
Absolutely. Now, you listed your top three, least favorite three to play in.
Least favorite. Um, I love the rink, but I'm gonna say Sault Ste. Marie just for the drive. That drive is awful. And they're a passionate fan base as well, but they love getting into the opposing team's skin. Um, what else is there? I'm gonna put Barry up there as well. I never had success in Barry until the playoffs. The playoffs was the first time I've ever gotten a win in that building. And then number three, I'm gonna say Ottawa. 'Cause they've got the square boards as well, and it's very dark in there. It's more like up top, like when they flip pucks, it's dark. So yeah, I'm gonna go Sault Ste. Marie, Barry, and then Ottawa as well.
Now, one thing that came out today, your teammate Dylan Rubrick signed an NHL deal with the Rangers. Just talk about seeing that news and how excited you were for him.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was sent into our group chat very fast this morning. When it got announced on Twitter or wherever it got announced, and so I just reached out to him personally and just congratulated him and all of that. But it's so cool seeing somebody that you've been with for the past 9, 10 months, um, finally getting that chance, the opportunity to sign the contract, and it's something that he's been working for, and trying to do everything toward everything, all the work that he's put towards signing that deal. It's definitely something special to see somebody that you've been so close with the past 9 months achieve their goal now, and obviously it doesn't stop there, right? The hard work continues, but no, it's super exciting for him and his family today for sure.
Now, obviously, OHL season technically isn't over, even though the championships been won, still Memorial Cup. So, what's your kind of prediction for the Memorial Cup coming up here in Saginaw?
I'm really hoping London takes it. Obviously they beat us, but not necessarily. Um, Obviously I would have wanted to be there. But they beat us. I always want the team, whoever takes us out, to go and win it all. So no, I'm really hoping London goes in there and cleans house, and shows everybody how dominant they are, like they were against us. And just, bring that trophy back to Ontario. So I'm gonna go with London.
Now, final two here before we wrap up. Obviously, guy you spent a little bit of time with, they came to Barrie to finish his career. Thomas Stewart, just talk about him as a person, how close you guys were when you were playing together, and see how his career wrapped up and against you guys, actually.
Yeah, no, when Stewie was with us, he was one of the guys I got very, very close to. We had a bond there that, it started right from the start when I got there, and he brought me in and he welcomed me super, super early. Um, and yeah, obviously it sucked when he got traded. It was definitely tough seeing him go. Um, but playing against him the rest of the year was always fun. We'd meet up after the games and just catch up, see how everything's doing. But when playoff time came, like we cut that out, and I only got to see him after game 6 when we beat them in their building. Super unfortunate that his junior career came with a sprained ankle or a broken ankle. I'm not 100% sure what happened there, but I didn't get to shake his hand on the ice, so I had to go over and give him a hug along the bench there. And I'm hoping to, when I'm down in Toronto this summer, hoping to see him definitely for sure. But yeah, no, like you mentioned, or like I mentioned earlier, we had a very, very tight bond together.
Now, finally, obviously, you guys had three overagers. Can't go without talking about these three: Connor Lockout, Stuart Roloffs, and Connor Punnett, what they meant to the Oshawa Generals organization.
Yeah, no, for sure. Obviously, Rolly's been there, I guess, for a while now. And our team captain this year. He just, yeah, he was a great captain. He brought everybody together, made sure we were all dialed in, like ready for everything. And just a great person in general as well. Like he's from the Ottawa areas as well. So I think him and I are going to try to hit the golf course a few times this summer. And then as well as Lockie as well, from the Ottawa area. So he was a great addition, like I mentioned earlier, bringing him in with the experience that he had from last year. And like I mentioned, the firecracker mentality that he has was just like he was a spark for us in every game, and he would drag anybody into the game that wasn't in there, and he would get under your skin a little bit in the dressing room to try to fire you up and make sure you were ready to go. But that's something, not a lot of guys have in them and not a lot of teams have. So we were definitely lucky to have that sort of attitude on our team with him. And then, like you mentioned, last but not least, there, Punnett, bringing him in from Barrie with the experience he had as well and the physical aspect of his game. Not only just like a great defenseman, but we could put him up on the power play as well. He's got a hell of a shot. So being able to have that, um, I guess I can, it's the right word, diverse option. I'm not too sure, but being able to have him play two different parts throughout a game was huge for us, being a lockdown D man, but also throwing him up on the power play if we need a goal or get some offense going. So, but like I'd like to say, like, all three of them, great guys, great people off the ice, and they were super, super just I guess loving and caring for our group. They would do anything for any of us, and I think all of our guys would do anything for them. So I hope to see all of their careers continue, because they all deserve it. They're great hockey players, but like I mentioned, even better people off the ice.
Absolutely. Well, Jacob, it's been fantastic having you on. Wish you all the best in the future and especially the NHL draft this year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me out today.